Welcome again to everybody that connected to this webinar. I'm going to explain you briefly what we are going to talk today about. So first I'm going to introduce who the guiding group is and the host and panelists of this webinar. Then I'm going to briefly talk about our first edition of webinars. Then we are going to have our panel discussion and talk about some perspective for the 2021. Finally, we are going to explain you how technology suppliers can help you to resume business. And then we will have time for everybody to ask their questions to guiding group or to our panelists. All right. So let me introduce you to our panelists of today. I'm very happy to share with you that we have representatives from the whole industry. We were supposed to be 4, but unfortunately today Mr. Galliano could not join. He's well, don't worry. But also Galliano, if you're watching us, a very warm hello to you. I hope to have you as a panelist next time. But in the meantime, please let me introduce you to Tommaso Cognolato, CEO and Manager Director of the Port of Naples, that during this webinar will represent the port industry. Hi, Tommaso.
Hi, Francesca. And hi, everybody.
Then we have Federico Costa, CEO of Trumpi Tours, one of the biggest SureX providers in Italy, representing for today the tour operator industry. Hi, Federico, welcome.
Ciao, Francesca. Good afternoon, everybody.
And finally, we have our dear Shannon McKee, President of Access Cruise and co-founder at Zilia, that is going to represent the cruise line industry for us today. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you. Nice to be here, Francesca.
Nice to meet you as well. And then your hosts for today, that are going to be me. I'm the Market Development Manager for the Guiding Group, and our CEO and founder, Ulrich Berger. Many of you probably already know him, and for those who do not know him, I would like to welcome you as well with a short speech for everybody. Hi, Ulrich, welcome.
Yeah, hi, Francesca. Thank you for introducing. Hello, everybody out there. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Shannon and Tommaso and Federico. I'm really happy, and it's great that you are joining our second edition of the webinar. And I hope we will continue to create the future together, as we already did in the past, and so that we can, be part of the tourism industry. But first of all, I also want to say thank you to you participating and to our webinar, because in this time, I think it's also a courage, and it's great that everybody and you still believe in the tourism industry. And in the last year, I realized personally that tourism is not just an industry. Tourism is really traveling, is really a part of our life. It's a part of our society. It's how human are. And so I think I really want to ask you or encourage you, or at least suggest that we gonna ask and use our power of being connected now. We ask Mother Earth to let us travel again very soon. So, and if we all want to give this wish to the planet, then I will have a 5 seconds of silence for that. And I ask Mother Earth that we may travel now again. And now let's continue with the webinar content and see how the future can create each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Ulrich. Thank you for your inspiration. And finally, let me introduce who the Guiding Group is. So we are a technology provider for the industry. We provide tour operators, destinations, river and ocean cruise lines with state-of-the-art digital all-in-one solution for tour guiding. This is not our first webinar, as we were mentioning. We did our first edition back in December, and it was honestly such a success, and we had so great feedback that we decided to do another one, this current one. Last time we had panelists from the industry, especially from local guides associations, cruise lines, and the academic sector. And what we, let's say, acknowledged back then was that COVID irreversibly changed our industry, and that to survive, the industry probably have three strategies that we all have and can pursue. One of that is networking, connecting with each other, sharing knowledge, know-how, experience, trying to really stick together to survive. The second one is organizing ourselves, so using this time to really organize better for the restart of the operations. And third, but not least, innovation. This time could really be used to get stronger than before to operations, and we can all really use this as an opportunity, we believe. So I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna try actually, because honestly, I'm not so sure that it will work, but I'm gonna show you a brief, a brief video of the last webinar. Let me see if it works. So enjoy the video.
Next year is the big chance for us all to say all our guides are vaccinated, all our guides follow hygienic protocols, and so we can build the brand in the next year. Because I think I'm a little bit with Lucas. It's different if you talk about international guests, and the locals, they want to go out, they want to travel, they don't care about all that. When we as guides come to them and say, we follow all the protocols, we use modern technologies like the smart iTool smart from your company or something. That's something where we can show we are state of the art. We are professionals.
So we now developed further together with the guiding group, and I think we are on a very good track where we have given the opportunities, or we have developed tools and equipment that is for guests that only need one particular function of all these great tools that guiding group can offer. And this, I'm for sure, is a winner. Because already the 2019 season, we could see guests that were familiar with dealing with apps, with downloading apps, and they loved it. They really loved it.
Okay, so let's go back to the presentation and let's dive deep into our discussion. So first, I was talking about innovation and what better tools like technology we can use to pave our way to the future. Well, we found a study by McKinsey & Company that show us how COVID-19 has accelerated the digitization of customer interaction by several years. Let's just think about how we used to operate before and how we used to live and operate nowadays and work nowadays. Nowadays, we are used to meet online, to do everything online. But before, we used to meet in person. We used to use paper for documents. So everything changed. And the technology of tomorrow can really help us to survive today. Actually, the fourth industrial revolution had already started before COVID, but it is true that during COVID, it accelerated so much. And those trends that we have seen during 2000. Short opinion from Shannon about this, because we are going to talk more in details about this topic. But I want to ask you, Shannon, Do you agree that technology can have a key role for the cruise line industry to resume operation in the future?
I do, Francesca. I think that, as you said, and as Mackenzie's showing, that the cruise industry was already going down the path of digitization. They were working towards new technologies with their newest vessels coming on board. But COVID has certainly accelerated that process as they really look to go touchless and contactless to improve the guest experience, but obviously for health and safety reasons. I think it's a key component for the cruise industry moving forward. And COVID has certainly really pushed them. And you know, it's the adoption as well. It's not just the cruise lines. I think the cruise lines mindset has been to move to that digital space as the trends have been towards mobile technology. But I think what we're seeing now is that we're going to see more adoption of their core marketplace. Whereas before, you know, young people obviously have been using their mobile phones, but I think that the age group is going to be more accepting. The older age group is now going to be more accepting of that mobile technology today than what they might have been before, because they've been forced to use it during this COVID time period.
Exactly. Totally agree. And then I would like to also to briefly talk about, I think, what is nowadays the hottest topic, that is this question: when we will have arrived at the new normal. So we searched the internet and we found what I believe it's the most relevant study made by UNWTO that you can see on the screen. Basically is about 3 scenarios that they created about international tourist arrivals. So as we can see from the graphs, it is pretty clear that in 2021, so the year we are living, there will be a recovery in international arrivals. But to go back to 2019 levels, it will take between 2 to 4 years. So not so little. In this regard, I would like to have your opinion, Tommaso and Federico, because the audience has to know that they both actually resumed operation already in 2020, so they have some actual experience on that. And I would like to know from you, what do you think? Do you agree with these scenarios, or do you think the recovery could be maybe quicker or longer? What's your opinion?
Tommaso, please.
Oh, so you give me the okay. Well, it's quite difficult to say, also because this data reflect exactly what IATA about the international flights is saying, so that until 2024 we will not have the numbers of 2019. Even though I have to say that we started with cruise calls during the second half of August last year. And all the things ran very well. The people were excited to go again on board vessels, even though they were very few versus the capacity of the vessels. We are talking about 1,500 people on board versus a capacity of about 6,000 people. So they were very comfortable on board, let me say. And they have a very great experience on board the vessel, because all the things were quite normal as before the pandemic that we are living now. The 2021 figures are quite difficult to explain and to share with others, because it's a very strange and fluid situation. In Italy, we have very different colors and regions, different problems in traveling. So Shorex, not always are allowed, or if they are allowed, they can be done in a very secret way. And it's quite difficult nowadays to say how it be the 2021. We are optimistic because the cruising is, let me say, probably the most safe way of travel, because with our new protocols in Italy, let me say, there has been no COVID cases on board the vessels, or even if there has been very few of them, they've been very well treated, very well confined, so no problem in developing the pandemic situation. And so it's a very safe way of travel. Obviously, there are many regional restrictions on what they can do, what they cannot do. But in yellow region in Italy, so we have a quite safe situation. All the shorts are allowed, so people can go outside, obviously always in a very safe situation without leaving the group, but they can taste the cruise life quite as normal. I don't know if Federico has something more to say.
Federico, what's your opinion about the recovery?
Well, I would like the recovery could be blue instead of orange, even if whatever I said in the last year, it was wrong. So the situation, as Tommaso said, is very fluid. I see that, but I believe that the ship will be back. I don't say soon, the majority of the ship, but slowly they will come back. We have an issue with the different nationalities. We have a plus in Italy, in Naples, but also in the other port, that Italy is one of the most requested destination by the worldwide tourists. Therefore, and in addition to this, the COVID impact we had in Italy in March, April, and May, and the reaction that we had, the population, showed the entire world that we are prepared to face the post-COVID, that we are organized. We don't just move our hands and make the typical Italian, but that Italian can organize, can make fantastic protocols, safe protocols. So what I feel in talking with the different ship owners is that they are very confident that Italian ports tour operator can deliver a post-COVID great experience to their guests. Then, if it will be blue, green, or orange, the return, I believe that the summer will not be as good as we were expecting a month ago, to be honest. This morning, Mr. Johnson closed the UK exit till the end of June. We were expecting instead an opening at the mid of June last week. So, I mean, let's say that we have a gap of 3 months before the provision of the return of the ships, but I believe that starting September, there will be a growing trend in the industry. But maybe I could move this blue line on the right side a little bit. That's
okay, thank you, Tommaso. Thank you, Federico. So moving on. So it seems quite obvious that 2021 will be a year of transition for the industry. But we can shape our futures rather than just green through the present. So we can use this year as an opportunity, as I was mentioning. So how we can reinvent the tourism industry? According to another study we found, 2021 will be shaped and impacted by multiple trends that have emerged or COVID accelerated. In particular, for example, volatile consumer demand, digital acceleration, a focus on health and well-being, and innovation. So I wanted to ask Tommaso, as he had already experienced to resume operation, did you see any evolution, any change in the consumer needs in 2020? And I'm referring especially to, of course, health issues and government concerns. And if you did, how did you react on them? How did you manage them?
Well, the first thing I have to say is that the people know exactly what we are living and has no concern about all our protocols, all our procedures. But on the opposite, they are asking for safe procedures, safe protocols. And so I should say that there is no problem at all with guests if we have to get a temperature, to make them wait, or to make them tested. They ask for it. So absolutely, there is a consciousness, a very full consciousness of the period that we are living. And they know exactly that all the things that we are doing are to prevent the COVID diffusion and to grant them a very safe situation. Obviously, they need all the things that we can provide to make the things as normal as possible before the pandemic situation. But what I should say is that they want to live the experience. And also during the Shorex, there has been very few cases where some passengers left the guided group, even if they were on the coach or on the hydrofoil or on a walking tour. Some guests has left the group, and they have not been allowed on board again. Even in this very tough situation, they did not have to complain or something like that, because they knew all the things about leaving the guided group, or what does it mean. And so they accepted the situation, because the COVID prevention was the first thing that we have to take into account. And I think that's all the things. The important things is that there has been a very cooperation between crew on board, between terminal staff, national and local organization, health authorities, to let the business work again. I think that is the most important thing.
Sorry, Tommaso, go ahead.
The important for the people is to touch that there is a very strong protocol that is respected, that there is no allowed of avoiding the protocol and getting with some risk. That's an important thing. Sorry.
Thank you, Tommaso. Federico, what about you? Did you encounter any fights, any difficulties while resuming operations from the consumers?
No, I was scared, very scared about the first call on the 23rd of August. Instead, I remained very surprised about the reaction and the attitude of the guest. As Tommaso said, the cruise line built such a safe daily life on board that the expectation of the guest was to find the same protocol, the same process ashore. Therefore, they were expecting to be strict ashore as it was strict on board, without compromising too much the experience they had in the entire holiday. I have to say that they didn't have just restriction, but they had also sometimes a better experience than in the past. And we come back to the app more than headsets, more than skipping the line or dedicated entrance in the aquarium in Genoa or some museum. Therefore, the new way of organizing an excursion not necessarily give a shorter or a small experience, but give a different experience. I do you another example. You go in Florence, the museum is closed, you have time to discover fantastic and unique corners that in the past you didn't have the time to show them. Therefore, their experience in Florence maybe was without academia, but was with some outside masterpiece that they didn't see before in the past life, let's say. So, and this was guest on the guest side. But I was impressed also about the tour guide, tour escort, and my employee, my staff on the pier in the port. I don't know if the voice is okay, is working. Let me try like better.
We hear you good.
Is better. Okay. So I remained impressed also about the reaction of the guide. They I was scared. They didn't want to go to test every call in the port to be strict with the protocols. Instead, they were wishing to be tested every morning in the port. Myself as well. I was. I wished to go to the port, being tested, and then get inside the port on the pier, completely negative, with between negative people in a kind of bubble. And so the reaction, the attitude of every single person, guest and employee included, was positive in order to enjoy their experience. So no problem. Yes, of course, as Tommaso said, we are yellow today, but tonight we become orange, so we have to change the schedule of tomorrow. We cannot go outside the region, etc. But the guests, they know this, they are aware, and they accept any changes if the changes is focused to make them feel safer.
For sure. I mean, it is true. I didn't think about it this way, but actually the experience nowadays can be even better somehow, because as you said, there are no more queues and everything is easier, smoother, and safer. So it makes total sense. You're right. Yeah. Thank you, Federico. So innovating now, it seems very clear that will help your growth tomorrow. In fact, according to another McKinsey study, 8 essentials will be very important for our industry to navigate through the COVID-19 crisis. And especially those 8 essentials are aspire, choose, discover, evolve, accelerate, scale, extend, and mobilize. So in this regard, I would like to ask Shannon, what's your opinion? And specifically, do you think there is any of these 8 essentials that it's going to be particularly key and important for the cruise industry? And do you feel there is any of this that it's kind of utopic, impossible to be pursued nowadays?
You know, when I look at these 8 topics, I think number 1 is aspire and aspiration. And that is something that the cruise industry does really well. They have been aspiring for many years to enhance the guest experience. We've seen that coming out, especially from the very large conglomerates, the Royal Caribbeans of the world, the MSCs, the Norwegians. They've really aspired to and rethink the way that their guest, every step of the point that their guest comes to in touch with them. So I really pay tribute to them for thinking outside of the box. As we said before, COVID has now pushed that aspiration. So I think they've been able to push some of those plans forward and have accelerated them. And I think they'll continue to evolve, obviously, with working with, Tommaso and Federico, because, the cruise lines can't work in a bubble. They need their partners, their travel partners, the ports and the tour operators to work with them so that they can then mobilize, extend and mobilize. It really is that partnership, and that's so important for the cruise industry to continue to evolve their messaging. And I know, I've had the opportunity to work with Guiding Group over the last few years as far as that evolution. And it just seems perfect, that evolution with Guiding Group, even, with the cruise lines, as they move towards a touchless and contactless type of experience, because I think Guiding Group can help bring that to realization now.
So you don't think any of this essentially is kind of utopic right now? You believe everything is possible?
I think it's challenging to scale at the moment. I think that, we're being challenged in the fact that, obviously we're working in a different kind of environment. It's a little more difficult to call these team meetings and execute. And, especially if you have these new technologies and all of a sudden you've had it on a single ship and now you're saying, oh my God, we need to take this to the next level and we need to expand it across the fleet. We've seen Princess cruises who has their wearable technology very similar to the Disney Magic Band, the Ocean Medallion program that they had launched, and they had already had plans to launch this across the fleet. But I think it becomes more difficult because the ships are, they have their dry docks that they have to do. Some of the yards have been closed. They haven't been able to put those through. So those have been delayed. So I think scaling is probably one of the bigger challenges for the cruise lines as they try to execute this new strategy moving forward.
Sure. Thank you, Shannon. So moving on, this is now time for some involvement from the audience. I would like to share with you some polls we prepared so we can have also your opinion. So I'm gonna start the first poll. You will see it on the screen, hopefully, and you can vote. So after we are going to comment on the results. So the question is, do you agree that COVID-19 fundamentally changed and will change the way you were doing business? Of course, 5 stars means that we strongly agree, and 1 star means that we don't. So pretty much everybody agrees strongly on this sentence. Only a very few don't agree on that, but I think we can easily say that for sure COVID fundamentally changed the way we are doing business. Then I will start the second poll. Okay, so the question is, to what extent do you think innovation is and will be critical for resuming business in a post-pandemic economy? So this is asking you, how much do you think that innovating now, you in the future can be, a better position, for example, compared to competition? As you can see, pretty much everybody believes that innovation will be crucial. So this is also a very valuable answer. All right, there are only a very few that are not so convinced that we are going to need innovation. All right, then the fourth poll is about, do you feel that you are well equipped and ready to get back to business? This is an interesting question. Not at all or very much. So do you feel ready to resume operations today? In fact, there is a little bit of battle here, as I supposed. And but the majority is feeling ready. I'm gonna wait a little bit more on this because I'm honestly curious to know which one will win. All right, we have a 64% that feels well equipped and ready to get back to business, and 35% that it's saying not at all. We are going to talk about this soon. I'm gonna show you the results. And last but not least, what was the biggest change that you implemented to get ready for the restart? If you haven't done it, of course, we mean what changes are you planning to get ready for the restart? Organizational change, strategical, technological, personnel, or structural. All right, so the majority is voting for strategic, technological, organizational. We have a lot of votes for technology. This is also quite interesting for our debate. So yeah, if I can sum up, I believe that what you're saying is that what is going to change is the organization of the business and the technology that you use. That is also quite interesting. All right, so thank you. I didn't go through these slides, but we already talked about. So going back to one of the polls we just had, we asked ourselves another question. So we have said that well, yes, we have to organize to be ready for the restart, but do we really feel ready to restart the industry? According to a McKinsey study, it's quite evident that 21% of executives that were interviewed feel ready to pursue new growth successfully. 85% are concerned about the lasting impact of the crisis. 2/3 believe that this will be the most challenging moment in their executive career, and 90% believe that they will have to react on fundamental changes. So it seems that everybody is conscious about the situation, but probably not everybody feels so ready to restart. And our polls actually kind of confirm that. So now we're going to talk a little bit more precisely about how can we organize for 2021. This is an open question for all our panelists, so you can freely answer to it. But more specifically, I also want you to ask if you have any suggestions for the audience on strategies or things we can do to be better prepared for the 2021. Federico or Tommaso, whoever wants to start.
As I told you, I was very scared in August before the restarting, and then we arrived to have nearly a ship a day in September, a few in comparison with the past, but more than zero of the month before. So nobody is prepared to restart. When you restart, I think Tommaso can agree. Every call, every day you do a mistake. You have unexpected reaction, unexpected situation, and so it's just action. Is briefing and debriefing, briefing and debriefing. I remember the first day we organized a fantastic distance queue in order to maintain the social distance, and in something like 20 seconds we had a very crowded situation. So all our ideas of organization was completely wrong, but the day after we did it with the opposite and it went perfect. So it's the sum of different aspects. I mean, I see the tour operating aspect, Tommaso the port flu aspect. So everybody in his own job. So but you can organize on time. Especially you need to study. You need to study means that the concept that you the criteria you go to the supermarket are the same criteria you go in a cruise terminal, are the same criteria you go in a walking tour. Therefore, you need to internalize, to make the concept inside you and your team. So training, and so we come to the digitalization. You cannot train 1,000 people face to face or online. You need also the help of the digitalization in order to have training online in terms of training people, in terms of responsibility, because you need to prove that you have trained people. So you cannot make 1,000 guides around Italy sign a piece of paper or make an interview, etc. So you need to make training online. So it's a mix of all these aspects, but prepare the call, prepare the ship arriving in the port is essential. Briefing before and debriefing is more essential than briefing. And this, after 2-3 weeks, becomes normal. So we are talking about the new normal, but the first people that need to make the new normal inside their mind is we are the one. We need to make an exceptional situation become normal for us. When it's normal for us, we transfer this new normality to our guests. This is what I learned in the last 6 months. So if the new way of the new process are normal for me, I transfer this attitude, this mood to my team. My team transfer to the guides, to the drivers, and the guest can have again a very exciting experience.
So you are basically suggesting act normal, and first of all, kind of being transmitting the same safety that you want to transmit to your guest. Am I correct?
You need to be reliable for your cruise line. I mean, my guests are the cruise line, and the cruise line guests are as well my guests. But the first line guest is the cruise line. Therefore, if I transfer this reliability attitude to, they have to rely on us, and the guest can rely on us as well. But the guest, when they buy a cruise, they rely on the cruise line. They feel sure, as Tommaso said before, not only when they are on board, they feel safe in the entire holiday, and we are a part of this entire holiday. So instrument like the app of the app for the show excursion and any other automatization can help to make the new flow, the new process smoother and has less impact and a better experience. Because let's remember that we had 45 guest group with the screaming guides around Venice downtown, maybe in the past. Now we have 18 relaxed guests with an app without a screaming guide, enjoying around the masterpiece of our country.
Thank you, Federico. Tommaso, do you have any other suggestions for how to resume business?
Yeah, I totally confirm what Federico was saying. Absolutely. What can I add is that we are a piece of the puzzle. And the important thing is that as a piece of the puzzle, we are not alone. So nobody has to think in its own business how to make it or how to run it or whatever. Every one of us has to share with the other, let me say, stakeholder of the puzzle. What are the processes? What are the protocols? So we have to share every decision that we are taking. And what Federico was saying is very true. We made, let me say, hundreds of meetings with the cruise lines and the health authority between middle of April till the middle of August, till the resume of the cruising in Italy. All the things on the papers, on the monitor of the PC was running very well, no problem at all. First call, we changed everything. Nothing has been done as it was planned on the papers and all the meetings and all the calls. Because one thing is when you study on the PC, on the webinars or whatever, and the other things when you are dealing with real people, real problems, because no one of us act like a computer. So the important thing is that you have tested all the things and that you are ready to change all the idea, all the criteria, always taking one thing in your mind, that safe is the first thing that we have to care of. And so keep distance, sanitizing hands and whatever, but you must be able and ready to change all the things you have done, because reality is different from the testing all the things. And the other important things is that you have to share all the experience with the others that are working with you, the crew on board, the shore staff, and also the local authorities, because they are there. Let me say, Federico was saying that we are working for our guests. That is true, absolutely true, even though they are passengers or cruise lines or guiding of the shorex. But local authorities, it's not fair to say, but they are working for themselves. So they are trying to check that everything runs without their needing or whatever. So they are ready to stop everything, because maybe there will be a risk, 1% of risk somewhere, but they don't want to care about that. So be very careful with local authorities. That means that you have to share with them all the things that you are going to do. because if they are aware of what you are doing, there will be less possibility that they will stop you. I think that the main message I can say.
Urish is, I think, applauding Tommaso. I can see you, Urish. All right, thank you, Tommaso. Thank you, Federico. And now, let's move to the last topic. How can technology suppliers help you resume business? We have said that technology can help us through this time. And I would like Shannon to introduce you her project, Zelia. Shannon, would you like to explain us how can you help the industry?
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity. You know, I've worked in the cruise industry for 30 years now, and I've worked for a cruise line. I have a tour company in Honduras. I work as a consultant and an industry expert. And based on all of those different pieces of what I've done is the reason why I created Zelia. And we created Zelia several years ago because we found that the cruise lines were struggling to find all the information they needed in the ports of call when it came to cruise-centric destination information. So we really took it upon ourselves to try to connect the world together. And our mission is to organize the world's cruise industry destination information to make it useful and universally accessible while providing valuable connections between the cruise lines and the destinations and the local providers. And you know what's important about what we've been trying to do is really we're trying to create some standardization. So it really fits into the conversation of the digitalization of what we're trying to do and take the information that we have been sharing for years on the ports and the communities and take that from being a jump drive or an email or a piece of paper or a brochure that we're printing and taking that away and putting it into a place that is universally accessible and useful to everyone. And that's what Zelia is all about. So we have been building the community, the Zelia community over the last few years. We're working with Holland America and Princess and Seabourn and Sea Dream Yacht Club and Virgin Voyages. So we have about 8 cruise lines signed online and about 400 destinations that we're working with today. And we continue to grow and expand. And I would invite everybody that would like to take a look at Zelia to come online. It's completely complimentary for users to come online. And we're giving complimentary trials to all the ports and destinations as well. Again, our mission is to organize the information so that it's useful for all.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm sure it will be useful for some of our audience, and you can find some more information in the handout section on the left. And now I would like to actually pass this session to Urish, and he's going to introduce you our guiding group iTour Smart Guide.
Yes, thank you, Francesca. The iTour Smart Guide is the first really working system where you can use your smartphone as the receiver. And for sure, it helps also in the requirements we have with COVID. But the best thing is nobody needs to exchange any kind of device anymore with the guest. So it's a really safety tool by itself without having been planned for that. So it's great that we are already here in the moment when it's needed. And it's also already in use in 2 cruise lines on the river and on the ocean. And we were about to spread it in the industry. And now a little bit stopped. So, but in the future, as I heard, the groups will grow again and always keep as a group together. So it's really great that everybody can use his own smartphone, I guess. It's also a kind of the philosophy from Guiding Group, which we developed devices for many, many years already, that we always reduce the functions. So we do not talk about features. We do not want to have more possibilities. We want to make it happen with less steps to the success of usage. And so the smart box from the local guide, this is the connecting hub for all the guests, for all the smartphones. And depending on your smartphone, the range is as you know it from the traditional receiver devices. And it can be smartphones even be connected up to 200 meters, depending on the module in the smartphone. And at the moment, we have a smart box for 100 visitors. And it's really absolutely easy to connect. The people download the application, or the application is already integrated maybe in the cruise lines application, and then as it is in scenic tours, and then you just push the button to listen to the local guide, push the number of the box, meaning the number of the tour, and then they are in. So we improved all the technical details. I don't want to go into it, but I think one feature for the cruise industry, which is really very relevant, is the fact that you can integrate it in your application. So it's no need for another download. And as easy as it seems to be, the only obstacle which is, let's say, still in the room is that the people have to download the app. So once again, I remember Shannon told me, in the cruise industry, you are the future man, right? So the future will be that we manage to have a step in without app, maybe already on the next year, so that the people who have problems to download an app still doesn't have to download them. It's of course better. So we realized a natural step of downloading an app on the smartphone is the only step which is still a kind of obstacle, interesting wise. So we will try to erase this obstacle. And from the functionality, we meanwhile cover every iOS and Android device. And we cover also old devices with old Wi-Fi networks. And we are working on lowering the size and the weight of the box for the guide. So we are already in the status of improving, but the major function is working. And one of the real woodworking thing is that we have a fast transmission. About latency, maybe you see me speaking on the screen, but you hear me before. So it's a latency inside, and we reduce this very much. And the better the devices get, the better the latency is. I mean, the lower it is. Yeah, but these are improvements. Coming to the real future steps, where we are already experimenting, meaning it's not just an idea. We really work and try out with partners that in the future, for multi-language tours, let's say Smartbox the Smart Guide system can automatically translate into the language the guest wants to listen. So even if there's only one guide, let's say an MSC has 5 languages, people from 5 languages on board, they could mix the groups, and then they could listen in their language, and the machine will listen to the guide, transcript it to text, translate the text, bring the text back to voice, and then the voice back to the ear of the guide, of the listeners, of the participants of the tour. So this is really tricky technology thing in regards to data amount, but we will, I'm quite sure, I'm knocking on my laptop, we will have a first try in the field in the next year already. So it looks much better than we expected. And so even if you cannot really understand English very good, you still understand a little bit, then you still get the color of the local guide, or if you don't understand Italian very good, but you still get the esprit of the person, and you can listen it meanwhile in your mother tongue. So this is, I know that it's requested, and the actual status is that we are experimenting and hope to have the first real field in the next year. Yeah, and not needing an app will be existing already in the next season. These are the future outlooks from our product, which helps. And I really want to take one more minute to also share another outlook, which we grabbed in the last session from Mr. Steiner from Austria in Graz. He was thinking about totally out of the box of concept of tour guiding. And he meant that maybe sooner or later, the local people living in a city can be connected with the visitors. However this will work, but then it's a really personal meeting of people from the local and from the, let's say, cruise line, or from the tour operator, or for every traveler who is coming. So technology can help to connect a traveler with a real local. So it's not only a guiding group tour anymore, It can also be a connected, organized meeting of locals. This is a great idea, I guess, for experience when you walk into a city. Yeah, so these are the perspectives of the future which came out from Guiding Group and from our webinars. Thank you for listening. And when you need some more information, I think you get it on the handout, and Francesca will help you and guide you through in personal talks. And I think you're safe to get through it.
Sure. Thank you, Urish. So now it's time for anybody who has questions. I have seen some comments in the chat. Let me just give you one short word. I see that there were some complaints about one comment by Federico talking about shouting guides. I think I can talk for Federico, but maybe then I will also give you the right to speak. But I don't think it was anything offensive at all. I think what he was saying is that, of course, if you have a group of 50 people, you have to talk loud, and technology can really help you not to, lose your voice. And this is what he meant, right, Federico?
No, because in Italy, I put mute because in Italy we are very crowded. And so we talk very loud, ourselves, also the guide, and also ourselves. So it was not offending the guide. It was just a need to make listen your voice in the middle of San Marco Square when there are another 20,000 people around you.
We strongly actually believe in the value of local guides. That's what we do. Technology is not meant to replace local guides. It's just meant to help you. So please don't be offended by that. So Andreas, do you have any relevant questions that already came through during the session that you want to share with us?
Yes, we do. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Good.
Hi, Andreas, welcome.
So Katri is asking, not specifically anyone, so this is for everybody. Do you believe that there will be mandatory vaccinations for guides hired by cruise lines?
Okay, I think either Shannon, Federico.
I think that it's going to depend on the destination. I believe that the cruise lines that we've seen announced over the last week or two, that the cruise lines are actually looking for and towards fully vaccinated cruises. So it would be required that if you cruise, that you would have to be vaccinated. And this has come out on multiple cruise lines now. I think ideally they would probably like to have a cruise guide vaccinated. The crew will absolutely have to be vaccinated. But it's also dependent on the location and the destination and the availability of vaccinations that it has to be considered. But I think that probably the cruise lines are considering it. And Federico, you may have more insight into this because you're working on this daily.
Well, I got my vaccine this morning, so I mean I can be a guide maybe if I pass the exam. So apart from these, we have to start from the point that in the last 7-month operation, no vaccine has been given to the bus driver, to the guides, to my staff in the port, etc. And the operation, at least in Italy, were smoothly and safe. The important thing is to maintain the health instruction and the health protocol. Then, country by country, I can talk for Italy, there are different categories. This morning they were vaccinating the policemen more than the school teachers. For sure, we will arrive to the guides or for example, now the bus drivers are one of the next categories. So the process of vaccination will cover, hopefully, nearly the entire population. So I think that if there will be an issue, the issue will be if a guide is not vaccinated, will you allow her to work? Because most probably in October, the 90% of the guides will be vaccinated, like the 90% of the population.
Hopefully, I will add.
You told me to be positive during the webinar, so I mean.
Sure, I will. All All right. Andreas, any other questions?
Yeah, there are other questions about the smart guide system. So I guess these are questions for Ulrich, and I will combine them. So does the smart box still work if there is poor internet connection in a region? And what will happen if the client doesn't charge the smartphone or forgets the headphones?
Or is you're muted?
So these are 3 questions. Thank you. First of all, the system is fully working offline. So if there's no internet, it's still just running. That's very important in any case. So you don't need internet. That's great. The second question is about battery. Sure, you need your battery in your phone charged to use it. And so what we improved during the time of development was to use very, very little amount of battery during 1 hour. So a real number, meaning it's not just stated, it's real, it's about 8% per hour. So you do not lose the tremendous amount of battery using the smart guide system. And you still have it to make pictures. And of course, if you run out of battery, then your phone is dead. We suggested that Scenic Tours is running this operation to have some spare devices with the guide so that the people can still listen even if their smartphone is empty. And but we also have other operations where they say, well, if you don't use your equipment in the right way, then you need to stay closer to the guide. So meaning this is, and the third question, Andreas?
Was concerning headphones, if people don't have their own headphones.
Yes, so first of all, depending on the provider, some are providing additional earpieces if you want. Some are providing them in the shops. And the system is also running if you keep the phone on the ear. So at least it's not very comfortable, but it would work. So if you don't have an earpiece, you still could listen from distance. I hope this fully answers the question.
I think so. There are other comments, not really questions, but some concerns about the distance, that 60-meter radius might not be enough with the social distance. And also some concerns about machine translation as a real option because of the loss of the human factor. So these were a few comments that came up.
Yeah. So in regards to this future outlook of the real-time translation by a machine, it can, let's say, be a supportive tool to, like, sometimes you see a movie or news in the TV and you hear the people talking, and even if you are from that same language, there you see a subtitle to read what they have been talking. Somehow like this, I think somehow like this, it would support people who do not really very well understand the language of the guide, but still somehow, then they still feel the guide, what he's talking about, and feel the intention and the emotion about the talk. But then they get a translation in the background to understand the precise words the guide is using. I think this can be the real use case. I don't believe that, for example, that if there are 5 different languages on board, they will still do tours on each language, that there's a guide speaking in the mother tongue of the guests. But if they're a mixed group, at least it's better to understand more with the translation instead of just forget what, just of not hearing what they are really saying. So it's supportive and additional. This is the only way technology can be. I think technology cannot replace in this regards human factor, because you need the emotion and the real passion of the guide. Otherwise you will just shut down and don't listen anyhow. That's my opinion about that. Yeah. And we will see how it works out in the field. And maybe, as Federico, I liked it very much, we have plans, and then in reality it's totally different, and then we adapt. So it can be that the use case will come out in a totally different, great way for everybody without now knowing it. Right.
Okay, there came in another question regarding interferences, especially in very crowded places. So where there are many Wi-Fi hotspots.
Yeah, this is actually the point where the history where the receiver devices had been on radio, they had been very much distortion from every side. But on the Wi-Fi side, it's very precise where you connect from the box to one phone, from the box to one phone. So the irritation is wider in the 2.4 gigahertz network, which is the old one, and it's already less in the 5 gigahertz, which is a new one, which almost every new phone since 4 years have. So meaning in the 5 gigahertz world, the interference is not really strong anymore, and the world is already about to roll out the 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So meaning this issue is solved by the architecture of broadcasting technology, and we are just happy that it evolves. So we have no complaints about this issue because it's in this architecture, it's less than it was in the past with the old radio architecture. It's not an issue in practical. Hopefully, thankfully.
Okay, Andreas, any other? Sorry. Whoa. Any other question?
There came another one in. I'm not sure if I understand it. I will read it as it says. And what is the difference between a traditional radio guide system? Maybe smaller and lighter?
The difference to a traditional radio guide system, first of all, is that you can use your own smartphone. To use the smartphone, it's another technology, but well, the guests and the guide do not have to take care about the kind of technology. It's another architecture. In the traditional, you get an additional device on your room or in the bus or at the entry of the museum. So you have to grab a new thing and try to, how does it work? And with this, you use your phone. You know how it works, and you don't get a different device. So I think the smartphones do not have a radio module inside. So you need to use a module of transmission, which is in the phone, and this is Wi-Fi. So it's an totally different architecture. Of course, every advantage also impacts and disadvantage. At the guide side, they are used to have this little receiver devices, same size as the receiver, as the sender. And now the smart box from the guide is bigger and heavier to carry. So it's a great upside for the guest, and it's a small downside for the guide, but they accept it and they can carry it. We have a praxis for 1 year running 6 ships all around the planet. Every day new guides, every day getting a guide, a new system, and they totally were okay of using it. And we are working on make it lighter. So that's it. So the system for the guest is absolutely smaller. It's just your phone.
Going on with the platform.
Okay, so there's just another question about the battery consumption. We already covered that. I will answer it in the background. And as far as I see, there are no further questions.
Yes, thank you very much.
So last chance to pose your questions now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I just wanted also to add something to what Ulrich just mentioned before about the smart box. I think actually some benefits for the guides are logistic wise, because you don't have to. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we just don't see you, but we can hear you.
All right, something strange is happening, but don't worry. At least you can hear me. So I was saying that logistic-wise, of course, a guide, especially during COVID times, is not supposed anymore to hand out or recollect and sanitize each single device for the single tourist. In this case, you only have to deal with the smart box that you have on your shoulder. So I think that's also something that we need to stress.
Yeah, absolutely great. information about the word stress, because we are, luckily I'm Austrian, so we always have a quarter more of time. I think we are about having expanded our 1 hour session, and then it's great that we are all still together. Thank you very much. And yeah, Francesca, maybe you wanted to.
Yeah, so thank you everybody again for the participation. Thank you very much to our panelists. I don't know if you want to give us a last comment.
And Shannon, Tomas, and Federico, thank you very much. It's really great that we are together in this session, and that so many people did listen to us. And I really hope we will continue to create the future together. And
thank you to you, Ulrich.
Soon.
Thank you, Ulrich.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.
Mille grazie. Grazie. Thank you. Arrivederci. Ciao. Au revoir. Merci.